Could you possibly be the jerk for refusing to give your boyfriend 50% of your rental income? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for ruining my own gender reveal party? I'm pregnant with a baby boy due in November. My fiance and I didn't care much about the sex of our child, so we didn't make too much noise about it once we found out. The only people we informed were our parents, their partners, and our siblings. Prior to this, my father's girlfriend of 3 years had been asking me about my plans for a gender reveal party. I've always been clear about not wanting one. When I announced my son's gender to them, she expressed disappointment that I hadn't changed my mind about a party. I don't like gender reveals, never have, never will. I prefer baby showers, which I think feel more about the actual child. I never tried to hide that opinion either. Days later, my father's girlfriend invited me over for tea at their apartment. My dad was out of town. When I got there, about a dozen people popped out of hiding to surprise me. There were pink and blue decorations everywhere, which made what was going on pretty clear. As I stood there in shock, my father's girlfriend excitedly told me they were throwing me a surprise gender reveal party. Since I'd already told her, she'd taken it upon herself to order a cake with colorful frosting, decorate the apartment, and invite a bunch of people over. The guests included her mother, whom I don't get along with, some of her friends, my mother-in-law, not my mom, and 4 of my friends. As I later found out, my mother-in-law and friends had been told I'd changed my mind about gender reveals. I had not. Still in the doorway, I looked over at everyone and said, "It's a boy. You guys can go home now." I left without looking back. Hours later, my father called me furious that I'd ruined the party. He said his girlfriend had put a lot of effort, money, and love into planning it, and I should have shown respect and gratitude for it. Apparently, she hadn't stopped crying since I left. It's been almost a week and they're both still upset. Even after I explained I never wanted that party in the first place, they're insisting I could have sucked it up for an hour or at least cut the cake. Am I the jerk? OP is 1,000,000% not the jerk here, and they're probably going to be childish and angry and resentful of OP for doing this, but I think OP either does this or gets steamrolled and makes a precedent that they're going to just lie down for them whenever they want to do something that OP doesn't want to do. Sorsha4564 wrote, "Not the jerk. This smacks of her trying to prove that she cares about you more than your mom. Especially seeing as how either your mom wasn't invited or she turned down the invitation to respect your wishes. She doesn't seem to get that the way to prove she cares about you at all is to actually listen to what you want and don't want." OP responded saying, "I asked my mom. She confirmed she wasn't invited. According to my father's girlfriend, she didn't have her number. That's probably true, but I have no idea how she could have gotten my mother-in-law's. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below?" That said, our next story is, am I the jerk for not giving my ex temporary child support relief so he can pay for his stepkids? My ex and I, both 32, were married for 10 years. In all honesty, we were both too young to marry, 18, and we'd grown up in a very religious environment that set us up to fail, because we were encouraged by our parents to court and then marry and have children, which we did. He was set up to work for his family so we could earn money, while I was expected to end all education and be a stay-at-home mom, which I mostly did, but I did seek out online school while my kids were very young, but I never worked. My ex wouldn't allow it, and my family and his discouraged it strongly. 4 years ago, at the start of 2020, my ex told me he wanted to end our marriage and that he had fallen in love with someone else. He told me he hadn't cheated yet, but knew it was coming to that and he wanted to be with her in the right way, which meant ending our marriage and marrying her before anything physical happened. He left me in a freaked up place. No income of my own, no job experience at all, and I was totally reliant on him and his family most of all. Despite what he said, he moved in with his now wife right away, though both claimed in separate bedrooms. Our divorce was a mess. They didn't want him to owe me anything. I asked the courts to grant me alimony until I could secure stable employment, which they granted, and after several short-lived jobs, I did secure employment and alimony came to an end. But I will never make as much as him. Despite my ex disappointing his family with his actions, they continued to employ him, and they increased what he makes so he could live comfortably for everyone, and more than comfortably even. He was ordered to pay a substantial amount of child support, even with 50-50 custody, because of the disparity between his house and mine. This money goes into providing my kids with a good quality of life. I couldn't provide it for them without the support, though I am far more comfortable now than before and can save a little for their futures. My ex's household full-time is his wife, her 2 children from another relationship, and their 1 child together. Our kids are there 50% of the time. Recently, my ex asked the court to relieve some of his child support burden, and he said his stepkids had some medical and dental procedures he needed the money for. The courts did not rule in his favor and told him he had an obligation to maintain our children's quality of life. After court, he approached me and asked to relieve him temporarily. He asked for 2 months so he can pay for the things his stepkids needs. I refused to let him off the hook on child support. I do believe he has stuff for his stepkids that need paying for, but our kids need to be supported too, and I don't want to make them suffer for his choices. He and his wife went on a very personal attack about how uncharitable and greedy I am. They also called me vindictive. Am I the jerk? This isn't like OP going to court or petitioning to the courts to get even more money from him just to take more from them. This is what the courts ordered is fair for his kids, whether or not he wants to pay up for his biological kids. OP's not the jerk, and if he has a problem with this, he can keep on whining to the court. Kuka63 wrote, "Not the jerk. The stepkids are the financial responsibility of his wife and their biological father. Let them step up. There is no way your children should suffer just because their father chose to marry someone with kids. He did not allow you to work when you were married, and now he wants to do you a financial favor to him? The hypocrisy and entitlement here is outrageous." OP responded saying, "That wasn't lost on me either. The fact he now expects me to give any financial help after he was adamant I should never work during our marriage? It's a lot. But unsurprising given everything else, I suppose." Our next story is, am I the jerk if I uninvite my sister-in-law from my baby shower because she's infertile and is always sad about whenever we talk about babies? I, 28-year-old female, am 29 weeks pregnant with fraternal twins, a boy and a girl. I was lucky enough to get pregnant almost immediately after going off birth control. My sister-in-law, 38-year-old female, who I'll call Jane, has fertility issues and has not been able to have a baby after more than a decade of trying and multiple rounds of IVF. A few days ago, my family all came over to my house to hang out. I told them that I finished decorating my nursery and my mom, sister, and other sister-in-law all wanted to see it, so I took them in to see it. Jane looked unhappy when I mentioned the nursery and said she'd rather not see it. She went out to the porch while we went inside. We stayed in the nursery for a while, and eventually Jane came in because it was too hot outside. We were talking about babies. Sister and other sister-in-law both have young children, and Jane looked a bit uncomfortable with the conversation. My sister said that I was really lucky to get pregnant with twins right after I started trying. After that, Jane started crying and left the room. We all went after her to talk to her, and she said she feels awful having to constantly hear about our babies. She went on a long rant about how she feels excluded because she's the only one of us without a child now. She thinks our mom treats her like she's less than my sister and other sister-in-law because they have kids, and now that I'm pregnant, we don't talk about anything but kids. She said it's insensitive when we know that she's infertile. She was like this for all of my sister and sister-in-law's pregnancy. She insists on coming to all the gender reveals and baby showers and birthday parties, but spends all of her time there wallowing in her misery and even starts crying sometimes. I kind of want to uninvite her from my baby shower next week because I'm scared she'll ruin the vibe. Would I be the jerk if I did that? I feel bad for her, but she can't keep bringing negativity to all our celebrations. I told my mom that I want to uninvite her, and she said I shouldn't because she's family, and we need to support her instead of excluding her even more. I just think this needs to be addressed carefully, and as long as OP does that and tries to kind of maybe talk to them one-on-one in a way that considers their feelings and not just uninvite them without really any clear indication why, OP most likely wouldn't be the jerk. I think they honestly might be the jerk if they just go and uninvite her, but if they give her the option and explain to her in what is trying to be the least threatening or hurtful thing for her, then how could you be the jerk? SharaMom4 wrote, "Info, is sister-in-law invited on outings that don't revolve around children and babies? Like everyone came to hang out and instead of having a movie day, a book club, a crafting session, whatever, the entire conversation resolved around babies, pregnancy, how fast you got pregnant, and so on? Not the jerk as long as you ask her if she would like to come or not. Don't just disinvite her with only a week to go. Talk to her about it." OP responded saying, "My sister, other sister-in-law have been bringing their babies everywhere. So even before I was pregnant, so all our hangouts have been very baby-centric for a few years now." Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to help a friend who didn't invite me to their wedding? For about 11 years now, I've, 37-year-old male, been pretty close with, let's call him John, 38-year-old male. We met at a job in my mid-20s and were pretty regular company up until the pandemic, where our hanging out, including a circle of mutual friends, has taken a decline, but isn't extinct. John and his partner, let's call her Jane, 36-year-old female, have been together for about 8 years now, engaged for a little under 2 years, both with a child from previous relationships, so they've taken trips with their kids near yearly. And I've been happy to help visit John's, now their, home and check on things, take care of their animals, etc. while they're gone. I've helped them out with other projects and tasks over the years, and most recently picked up Jane from the airport returning from a work trip, and got her home this past winter during a snowstorm because my vehicle could handle it. Generally, I've been present and helpful on top of our base friendship. About 5 weeks ago, I find out from a mutual friend their wedding is coming up, and invites went out a while ago. Everyone in our circle but me invited. As a gay guy, I've experienced being iced out of some of my straight friends' lives and events in ways minor and pronounced. But this one has definitely been something that has had me thinking about my time and energy with people. I decided I would take the hint and begin to distance myself. 3 days ago, John texts me asking if I'm around in early to mid-August. I say I am. John asks if I wouldn't mind visiting like I have before to look after the animals and property. I said, sorry, I can't. He calls to talk about it. We run through the same conversation, polite but a bit tense. So finally I say, I just won't be visiting your home. After a moment of silence, I bring up that I'm disappointed that I appear to be the only person in our group of friends not invited to his wedding, and that I can't be helping like I have before if I'm just a background friend at this point. I wrap up the call positively and sincerely with me wishing them a good wedding and trip, and that maybe we can grab drinks soon. Jane reaches out 2 days ago sending follow-up texts saying John is upset about what I said, and with her because she made the final call about friend invites, and that I'm taking this the wrong way. There's only so much capacity, and that the others in our friend group have partners that took up space. She adds that she hopes I'll change my mind and help them out because it would put John's mind at ease. I'm not entitled to the company of others or invitations to anybody's events, but am I wrong for setting my own boundaries in response to theirs? I try not to frame my friendships as transactional, but they obviously want something out of me here despite their not inviting me and then avoiding even bringing it up with me until they needed help with covering their honeymoon. I was already on OP's side, but what really cemented it for me was OP kind of refreshing in my mind. They want OP to come over and help them while they go on their honeymoon, while they purposefully did not invite them to the wedding. How could it be more of a slap in the face to your friendship? If I were OP, I would be saying, absolutely not. I feel definitely put down and in the background. Have fun on your honeymoon. Peony Pony wrote, not the jerk. What a bogus excuse. If your friends need someone to check up on their animals and property when they're on their honeymoon after a wedding you weren't invited to, they can ask another friend or family member. The audacity of some people astounds me. I am a believer in putting the same energy into a friendship as you experience. OP responded saying, I don't pretend to be super savvy about wedding etiquette, and I realize every wedding is different and lines have to be drawn about who can come or not. But yeah, my mutual friend reaching out to me to coordinate plans for our friend group during the weekend of the wedding to find out I wasn't invited definitely stung and felt awkward, and my friend was in disbelief as well. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to waive my alimony because my ex-husband has cancer and can't afford it? My ex-husband, 56-year-old male, and I, 52-year-old female, got divorced because of his infidelity. He married his affair partner. She was a prostitute 20 years younger than me. As part of our prenuptial agreements, we had agreed I would receive alimony for being a stay-at-home mom. I was a stay-at-home mom for my entire marriage. We had 3 daughters. He never had a problem with paying alimony after our divorce. We had tried to be friendly to maintain a good co-parenting relationship. My daughters were very hurt in the beginning, but learned to forgive my husband and his wife. They make TikToks with her all the time now. He ended up getting cancer, and because he became a big spender and had recently started his own business, the bills have been very hard on him. He and his wife asked if I could waive my alimony payments, at least for a little while, so that he can pay for his cancer treatments. I see no reason why they can't downgrade their quality of life. They live in a multi-million-dollar house, and his wife is checked out in designer clothes and has a face full of procedures. I told them no, and they've been pressing me to waive my alimony payments. They've even made my daughters bring it up. He's calling me cold-hearted and said he'd been good to me and would have helped me out if I was going through a hard time. Am I the jerk? I think this is a situation where you're not the jerk either way, even if it makes the people around you more upset. Ultimately, it's up to you whether or not you want to kind of help them out there. If you feel like they don't really deserve it or they just want to keep that money so they can continue to live a certain level of means that they don't have to be living at, I don't think I can fault that logic. DYED For Harambe wrote, "Not the jerk. That they live above their means isn't your problem. They asked and you said no. That should have been it. But here's where I really feel you're not at fault. They keep harping after you said no. Then they try to use the kids. That's a seriously low thing to do. Then he calls you names and says how good he's been after he cheated and it led to a divorce. The alimony isn't being good, that's court mandated. He would have helped out. Right. Easy to say now, he didn't help you out when he helped himself to another woman. If they really had a money crunch, they can probably sell cars or a house, or take a loan against the house which they pay back when they downsize the house later, etc. Basically, there are many other avenues before the alimony payments. They probably went for that because it would be the easiest if you just agreed. Does the wife not work? This next story is, am I the jerk for not changing how I live for my stepson's girlfriend? My stepson, Ben, 20-year-old male, is living with us right now during summer break from college. About a month ago, he asked if his girlfriend from college, Liv, could stay with us for the rest of the summer because she's going through a rough time at home. I wasn't fully on board with the idea because we already have our 2 other kids, 11 and 9, in the house, and have 4 adults and 2 kids in our space is a lot. My wife has a soft spot for Ben and struggles to say no to him, so my concerns were dismissed and now Liv is living with us until they go back to school. There have been a few issues that have come up since Liv came, pretty much all of which have to do with me. First, one of the big reasons Liv wanted to change her living situation is because her parents are alcoholics. Now, I don't drink every day, but I do have alcohol in the house, and I like to imbibe with a meal sometimes or have a few cocktails on weekends. This is triggering for Liv to see a parent drinking with kids around. Second, Liv is vegan. We eat a lot of meat in our house. Pretty much every meal has a meat involved. I also hunt, so we eat meat that I've harvested and I have a few mounts on the walls. This makes Liv especially uncomfortable. Ben and Liv sat down with my wife and I this past weekend and offered some suggestions to help make Liv's time here easier. Their first suggestion was that if I want to drink, I should do it in private and not around the kids. I tried to interject when they suggested this, but they asked to let them finish before saying anything. Their next suggestion was to allow Liv to cook vegan meals for us so that we didn't eat so much meat all the time. She offered to do grocery shopping and meal planning to provide vegan meals for us instead of our usual meals. Finally, they asked if I could remove the mounts from the walls of the house until they go back to school in 6 weeks. When they finished, I asked if it was okay for me to talk now, and they said yes. I told them that my answer to all of their suggestions is no. I told them I appreciate Liv's offer to cook for us, and she is free to cook a few vegan meals for us during the week if she wants, but we're not going to completely change our diets for one person. But as far as their other suggestions, not happening. My wife spoke up and said that maybe it wouldn't hurt to try their suggestions for a little bit and see how things go. She said it's only 6 weeks and that changing our lifestyles a little bit for a short period wouldn't kill us. I told all 3 of them that if they want to change the way they live, they are free to do so. But they are not going to force me to change the way I live in my own home for a temporary guest. I told them if that means I cook separate meals for myself, so be it. But the mounts stay, and if I want a beer or a glass of wine, I'm going to have one. All 3 of them think I'm being unreasonable and that they aren't asking too much of me for a short period of time. I think this is yet another situation where you're not the jerk either way. I'm assuming this is OP's house. They have every right to say, okay, sure, I'll be considerate for the 6 weeks. And they equally have every right to say, listen, I'm already giving you room and board in my house. I'm not going to change my entire life. The Empress is in wrote, not the jerk. This is a great lesson to them that you cannot always control the world around you, and you certainly cannot control other people. She is lucky to be a guest, and guests should never make the kind of asks she is making. it is not polite or respectful. If your lifestyle is so hard for her, then your home is not the safe place she needs, and she should make other arrangements. The biggest issue I see is, why does your wife think this is okay? Has she been making some similar requests of you before? P.S. I'm taking you at your word you drink lightly. If you drink more than 2 tipples every day, they might have a point. OP responded saying, my wife has never made any suggestions like this before, but like I said, she has a soft spot for Ben. She had him when she was quite young, and I think a part of her wants to be the cool mom. As for the drinking, I don't drink often. Some weeks I'll drink 2 to 3 days. Sometimes I'll go for 1 to 2 weeks without a sip. But I have it in the house, and if the mood strikes or I want a pair to drink with a meal, I do it. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not giving my boyfriend 50% of my rental income? I, 46-year-old female, and my partner, 57-year-old male of 5 years, are talking about moving in together after my kids from previous marriage have moved out. He has a fully paid off house and I have a house with a mortgage. It's likely that I'll have to move into his house as it's bigger, and I rent out my house with a rental income of around $600 per week. When we spoke about how to manage our finances, he suggested I pay half of all the bills and groceries, plus 50% of my rental income that I receive from my house. Paying half the bills and groceries I completely understand, but half of my rental income to him, even though he has no mortgage, I didn't think was fair. I didn't quite understand why he wanted me to give him 50% of my rental income first. He then explained that in case we break up and he doesn't want to feel like I've taken advantage of him and the living situation, and to make things fair, we should chip in 50-50 in everything. I don't feel though that this is a 50-50 deal, more like an 80-20 deal with him benefiting more than me. I would pay a maximum of $150 a week, rent plus bills and groceries. That is around the amount I'm willing to pay, not $300 a week, rent plus bills and groceries. As a side note, my income is around $75,000 and his is around $85,000, half of which comes from his rental from his own investment property. Am I the jerk for not giving 50% of my rental income to him if I move in with him? Honestly, I feel like if OP moves in, everything should be pretty much 50-50 regardless? Is it weird that I'm confused about why rent is even being discussed here? I mean, I just feel like if I had a partner of 5 years and they were ready to move into my house and were willing to pay 50% of all the bills and groceries, rent wouldn't even really be a thing that would pop into my mind. That just feels ridiculously greedy. And in that sense, I think OP's definitely not the jerk. Wizard of Claus wrote, not the jerk. OP, you've been together for 5 years and still don't live together. I assume because he doesn't want to live with your kids. The second you move in, he expects to take half of your rental income from a house that doesn't belong to him, despite the fact that you'll still have to make payments on the mortgage. Meaning he would get more from your house than you do. This is so he doesn't feel taken advantage of. I don't even know what to say to that. He already makes more money than you and has his own rental property that I assume he's keeping 100% of the money from, while expecting you to split 50-50 on yours the second money starts coming in. Holy Christ, I'm sorry to be rude here, but how many red flags do you need? This next story is, am I the jerk for asking my stepdaughter to pay me back for my dress? I have a daughter, Ava, 18-year-old female, and a stepdaughter, Mia, 22-year-old female. Mia's mom has primary custody of her, so I only saw her for a few weekends a year growing up. However, she went to a college near me and my husband, so we're a lot closer now. I have a job at a big fashion company and we get clothing for free, like if it didn't sell or sample pieces and the rest is donated. When I first started, I got a beautiful silk mini dress that I love and have kept it in very good condition. After having my kids, it's more of a tight fit, so I usually pick something more comfortable. It fits Ava perfectly, and she borrows the dress all the time and it looks great on her. Mia asked me to borrow the mini dress for a wedding and I let her. She came over yesterday for dinner and showed us the pictures of her at the wedding, and she looked stunning, but I noticed she had altered the dress. Mia is much shorter than me and Ava, so the dress when she tried it on in front of me was knee length on her. However, at the time, she insisted it was fine. In the pictures, it was a mini dress, which is how it sits on me and Ava. Mia admitted that she got home and preferred how it looks on Ava, so it got altered. However, she didn't cut the fabric off, just hemmed it, so I should be able to get the dress back after picking out the stitches. I got upset at Mia, and when she handed me the dress, it would be very hard to get the dress back to its original state. Taking out the stitches could leave holes in the silk, and the dress fits more like a long top now. I asked Mia to reimburse me for the dress and told her I was upset she had stitched and altered it without asking me before. She said she didn't know that she couldn't stitch silk and it was an accident. My husband said Mia made a mistake and asking her to reimburse me for the dress that I got for free, which at its original price is a lot more than she can afford as a college student. He said I shouldn't have let her borrow it if the dress meant so much to me. I accounted for Mia spilling something on the dress or getting it dirty, but I don't think it was fair of her to alter it without asking me, and I can't wear it as a dress anymore. I'm quite upset about the dress, so maybe asking her to pay full price is too much. But she is an adult, and it wouldn't be fair of me to treat her like a child. If OP's scared of damaging it, if it's possible to maybe go to an actual tailor and ask them if it's possible to remove the stitches without damage, I think it would be fair enough to ask her or expect her to cover that fee, not the full price of the original dress. And honestly, if we're not going down that route, absolutely, I completely understand being absolutely livid with them, but at the same time, I don't think it's really fair to demand she pay full price of the original dress when you got it for free. Electrical Bat 7311 wrote, I think this is an issue where you need to try to undo the modifications with a tailor first, with Mia present. Ask Mia for the name of the person who altered it, and go talk to them all together about how to get it back. If they can get it back with no holes, then problem solved. If they can't, then Mia needs to be there to hear that and understand the consequences of her actions. Our next story is, am I the jerk for dyeing my hair even though my husband didn't want me to? I, 31-year-old female, have been married to my husband, 32-year-old male, for 9 years. I've always loved dyeing my hair, although it was always blonde or red when we were younger. We met when we were 15. Now that I'm older with adult money, I enjoy trying out different colors, mostly blue or purple. I've been red and blonde a few times as well. My most recent color, red, faded, and then it got bleached while at the beach. So I dyed it a blue or teal color and sent him a picture. His reaction was, is this an old pic, or do my feelings and opinions really mean that little to you? It's not that it means nothing to me, I just like dyeing my hair. He's never liked it and prefers me natural. After my job said nose piercings were okay, I didn't get mine re-pierced because he didn't like it. He was upset that I got a third tattoo even though I already had 2, so I haven't gotten a new tattoo even though he has. Am I the jerk for dyeing my hair even though my husband didn't want me to? OP's not the jerk here, and if this is honestly going to be a breaking point for him, you should go and try to find somebody that's not going to be controlling or emotionally manipulative. Do my feelings really mean that little to you over dyeing your hair? Electricity wrote, not the jerk. Your husband's being weird and controlling. Why are his feelings that affected by you coloring your hair? He's known you for almost 2 decades and still can't accept that you enjoy body modification? He's got to be reminded that your self-adornment should be the least of his worries in a relationship, and that stifling you, especially for such petty things, could push you away and cause resentment. I say do what you want, re-pierce your nose, and if he throws a fit, have a conversation about how he's got no say over what you do to your body, and remind him that he fell in love with who you were and always knew that you liked to do this. I'm sick and tired of hearing about partners controlling each other's outfits. The only thing you can control is yourself and your body, so have fun with it. And if he can't accept you for who you are, find someone who does, and maybe you both can look cute with colorful hair. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.